Hello and welcome to another episode of Issuer Update. I'm Dimitri Giller, and joining me today is Jeff Ackert, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cascade Copper Corporation, ticker symbol CASC. Jeff, welcome.
Dimitri, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. So let's get started. Can you give us an overview of Cascade Copper? What sets it apart from other junior exploration companies in the sector?
Yes, thanks. Well, Cascade Copper, first of all, is relatively new, and I think some of your listeners and viewers have probably seen some of the previous interviews that we've had with the CSE, which is fantastic. It's a great format. But to say that we're a little bit different, I think is important that we can talk about, you know, the copper commodity that we're after. One of the things that we'll talk about hopefully a little bit later is our share structure, how unique it is and quite small. And you know, I think one of the things that we've really tried to do is focus on Canada as a jurisdiction. So all those things together, I think, make us a little bit different than some of your other juniors in the market.
Right. So Cascade now has 5 projects in its portfolio. Can you walk us through these projects and how they fit in the company's overall strategy?
Sure. The projects, well, most of them are in British Columbia, and we really like British Columbia as a jurisdiction, and for copper as well. Most of the copper being discovered in Canada now is coming out of British Columbia. So 5 projects, 4 of them are in British Columbia. Our flagship project is Rogers Creek, which is, we say it's flagship because it's one that's ready to go as far as drilling is concerned. 3 others in the area, all related to copper, and we do like Rogers Creek the best for sure. One of the other ones that we're really keen on is Copper Plateau, and it's located in the Princeton-Penticton area, so around some production. Teck's Highland Valley Copper is nearby. Hudbay's Copper Mountain is very close. And if your listeners and readers and viewers have seen news coming out of Kodiak Copper, their project is about 20 kilometers away from us. So we're in a really good spot in that area. And then finally, our 5th project is in Ontario, and it's in the northwestern Ontario around Sioux Lookout and Dryden. And a lot of activity is going on there. Kenorland, Dryden Gold, Heritage Mining, quite a number. So it's a bit of a hot spot, and you know, we're very keen on that because of the copper potential in the area. So 5 projects, 4 in British Columbia, 1 in Ontario, all copper centric.
Right. So just focusing in on your flagship project, Rogers Creek in BC, what makes this property so promising?
Yes, well, as mentioned, we've got a lot of data. We've collected a lot of data, historic work, and some of the work we've done ourselves. And these days, you know, it's all about data management. You know, you can have the greatest project ever, but if you don't manage your data properly and interpret it properly, you're going to miss something, right? Mm-hmm. So what we've done, and we've done this across all of our projects, but because Rogers Creek has such a history and we have a lot of historic data, we've been able to compile it into a 3-dimensional database. And what that means is that we can sort of peel back the mountainside and put in our inversions for our geophysics and like our IP and our magnetics. We can put in all the historic data, and we can really build an excellent story about where we think the best targets are. And this is what we've done at Rogers Creek. And this is why we really, really like it, because it just stands out like this is fantastic looking porphyry system with all the components that we've, you know, analyzed and put together. So it represents the best targeting we have right now.
Some of the other projects you mentioned recently received funding through Ontario Junior Exploration Program. How does this grant support your exploration efforts?
Yeah, it's a great program, and it's specifically for the Ontario project, so our Centerfire project up near Dryden and Sioux Lookout area. Yeah, it's a great program, and it's set up for smaller companies and smaller early projects, and this is what Centerfire is really. It's there was showings there in the past. There had been done some work done back in the 1980s and that kind of thing. Commodity prices were a bit different back then, but we've picked this one as has very good potential. And then we applied for this OJEP grant. What it does basically is it matches your expenditure on a 50%. So if you spend 100,000, they'll put in 50, kind of thing. And that's kind of the scope that we're looking at now. So it's going to help us. Obviously, we don't have to go and raise that money in the market. So it's a good use of cash, and it advances the project. So what we're doing is some geophysics with that, and some mapping and sampling as well.
Speaking of commodity prices, what impact do the fluctuations in these prices have on the exploration and on your exploration development strategy?
Yeah, well, everyday prices for us as explorers don't really matter so much. For us, we understand the fundamentals for copper, especially that, there's going to be this demand going forward. We see the demand for copper being very, very strong for the next decade, just with, the way the electrification is going and people are getting off of fossil fuels. So copper, I think, as a commodity is great. So the fluctuations on a daily, monthly, quarterly basis don't really bother us so much. But what it does do is if the copper prices and gold and so on keep kind of climbing, then it attracts the attention of the market. And then they start thinking about what these fundamentals should be. And then they understand how and why they should be investing now in things like copper and some of the critical metals. So day to day, not so much, but it does help the investor kind of make the decision to invest in a company like us.
Right. So as you mentioned, your primary resource is copper. However, there's some exposure there to gold, silver, and other minerals. How do these commodities complement each other within your projects?
Most of our projects, well, 4 projects anyway, are related to copper porphyry systems. Copper porphyries, some of the biggest gold mines in the world are actually copper mines. And so what we're looking for are big tonnage deposits. And there's a good, spattering of them all the way through British Columbia in the areas that we're looking for. So we know that we can have anywhere from a small 200 million ton to a big billion-ton deposit. And a lot of these things are associated with gold, with silver, and with moly. And in particular, our Copper Plateau project, it's quite unique in the fact that it has a very good molybdenum or moly component to it. And today, moly prices are extremely high. So, you could probably mine your copper for free with all the benefits you get from the moly, the gold, and the silver that are associated with these things. So it makes it very economic, when you get to the production stage.
Just zooming out for a moment and talking about the green energy transition, how do you see Cascade fitting into the larger trend?
The big companies like the Freeports and the Techs and the BHPs and so on, they're scouring around. They're looking right now for, what are going to be the deposits of the future, right? And they don't have the teams and the manpower to actually go out and look for them themselves. So we see our role in this whole green energy transition and the need for copper and big copper mines down the road. We see our position as sort of the feeder system or the food chain of copper deposits. So we're the ones that are looking for hints of it. We're doing the initial stage. It's a little bit higher risk, obviously, but we're bringing it up to the stage where we can then say, look, Mr. BHP or Mr. Tech or Mr. Freeport, look at what we've got, and we think you should be looking at us. So that's what I think investors should think about. That's what our mandate is to bring some of these early stage projects up to the level where, the big companies or mid tiers, the First Quantums and that kind of thing can say, yeah, we really like this. And they'll come in and they'll either buy us or they'll buy the project or do something like that to benefit our shareholder base. So that's where we see our position really.
Okay. Well, switching gears a little bit here, focusing on the financial structure. You recently completed a tranche of financing. How will the process be used to advance your projects?
Yeah, so we did a before the end of the year, we did some flow through. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to sort of get us going. So a little bit of hard dollars along with that, so non-flow through. So it's a combination, and it's, I think it's essential for us to take both. Obviously, we need some of the hard dollars, the non-flow through dollars, to keep the company going. We have to do our listing fees. Thank you, CSE. We've got to do pay lawyers and auditors and so on, just to keep the company public and keep it in good standing. So we need those hard dollars, but we also need the flow through. The flow through in the past has been really good, because it's the one that's really fueling the exploration business in Canada. And that's one of the reasons why we chose to stick with Canada, was the access to flow through money. So the use of proceeds is basically exploration comes from the flow through, G&A comes from hard dollars, and that's kind of the mix that we'd like to see.
And can you speak to the company's approach to financing a little bit more and managing dilution while continuing exploration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dilution, I mean, that was one of the mandates we had when we first started the company. We wanted to keep the share structure quite tight, quite small. So our share prices, it's a little bit diminished right now. Just everybody is in our sort of state of business right now. So we're not going to go out to the market and raise 2, 3, 5 million at the prices we're at now. So our plan is to, keep our financings at a reasonable amount that gives us enough momentum and enough dollars to go and do exploration during the year. And, we see that the markets, hopefully, fingers crossed, will increase. Our share price will increase with some of the exploration success we have. So all of that will compound itself to give us a little higher share price. And then next time we do finance, we'll do it at a higher price, less dilution. So we're going to try to manage that along the way. So that's kind of our philosophy at the moment. And so far, so good.
And so zooming out a little bit here, what are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities facing junior explorers today?
Yeah, I think number one is probably trying to, show yourself as being a bit unique and grabbing the attention of the market. I mean, there's so many distractions out there. Everybody gets so many emails, and there's so many people trying to promote not only mining stocks, but, Bitcoins or Ethereum or whatever, some of those kind of things. And I think that's what's sort of eaten in a little bit to the junior exploration market is some of these, potential big gainers that are attracting some of the higher risk investors. So I think number one is the communications and just trying to get yourself into the news enough to attract the attention of the investor. And one way to do that is just do good exploration, have good targets, use your money wisely, and get results quickly into the market so people can see that you're moving forward. And then, the perennial challenge is obviously getting the money in the door. And, we think with flow through, we think with people understanding copper's fundamentals, that will gel even better in 2025. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay. And speaking of 2025, what are the key milestones investors should look for regarding your exploration and drilling?
Yeah, so I think, we've got a lot of projects. I think we'll certainly be able to do some work on each one of them, but I think the big milestone will be when we get the drill on the ground. And the plan is to drill at Rogers Creek. So that'll be a milestone when we get the drill turning there. But I think, as I said, little bits of news along the way. So I think people have to just say, okay, they're working on Centerfire. They're working on Rogers Creek. We're going to do some work on Copper Plateau. So as long as people are seeing that we're doing work on all of these things and advancing them to the next stage, and then eventually get to the drilling stage in all of them. But I think we'll see drilling on 1 or 2 of our projects this year for sure, and that will be a big milestone for us.
Final question, where do you see Cascade Copper in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'd like to see market cap a little higher, but the share structure is still fairly tight, so that equates to a higher share price. Love to see that. I think it will happen when we get our exploration results out and the market, understands what they are. Continue to do some promotion. I think it's an essential part of a junior explorer is to tell people the story. So interviews like this with yourself and with the CSE, and then third party and people just paying attention, and hopefully we'll see a bigger market cap. We'll see a couple of discoveries under our belt, and because we have 5 projects, we may even say, well, we could option or sell one of these to a mid-tier or a major, or we could do a JV with someone like that, which not only takes the project a little further, but it also puts a stamp of approval on the projects as well. So, those are the things that we'd like to do. Continue to raise some funds, have exploration success, increase our market cap, and perhaps do a deal with a bigger company on one of our projects.
That's great, Jeff. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Dimitri. It was a pleasure to see you and to be with you on this interview.
Very welcome. So joining me today was Jeff Ackert, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cascade Copper Corporation. For more information, please visit thecsc.com and search ticker symbol CASC. Thank you for watching and take care.